And I just remember running to the sideline, running to jump on my guys. And I jumped on them. And here comes 50,000 fans rushing the field. Most defensive ends were 6'4", 6'5", 270 pounds or whatever it was. I wasn't. All right. So I was going to have to find a way to redefine the position. And I did. This is it, man. And when you achieve that, it's just like, you almost feel like it doesn't make any sense. You're like, wait, what just happened? I won a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, bad things happen. It is what it is. It's always how you bounce back from adversity that always brings you to the next level.
Who was the hardest quarterback to sack? You played in obviously a different era.
Ooh. Well, it just depends. It depends on what you mean. So,
first of all, this is my voice. I'm Tim Green, and I have ALS. But this podcast isn't about ALS. I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I don't feel sorry for me. I'm a father of 5, married for over 35 years, a New York Times best-selling author, an NFL first-round pick, and a practicing attorney. This is Nothing Left Unsaid, where my son Troy and I sit down with extraordinary people for raw, honest conversations about life, its toughest trials, and greatest triumphs. My voice in today's episode is powered by 11 Labs. Today's guest is an NFL legend, Dwight Freeney, a 7-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, and one of the most feared pass rushers in league history. Dwight changed the way defensive ends play the game. His signature spin move became iconic, and his relentless motor made him a nightmare for quarterbacks. Dwight, you weren't the biggest or the strongest coming out of high school, but you became one of the most dominant defensive players of your generation. What part of your mindset or upbringing gave you that edge, and how do you pass that on today?
well, good question, Tim. Good seeing you. I think that for me, I had this burning desire internally since the youth, very young, just wanted to achieve greatness. And that light always shined, even during the bad times or whatever it was where you're trying to push one more rep and you want to quit, or that extra sprint or that extra bench press or squat. I think that light that burns within you, that was developed at a very young age for me, kept burning and kept going and helped me push through some real tough times. And, as they say, if you can push through those tough times, you're going to come out better on the other side. And I think I did that. And I always just wanted to be great, man. And that just never, ever wavered in my mindset ever.
What do you think planted that seed, Dwight? What you said as a very young age. My dad's talked about for him, like he was adopted and he felt like he kind of had to prove his worthiness and all that. What do you think caused that for you?
Well, I mean, you know what? That's a good question. I hadn't really thought about exactly, what happened. It could have easily have been something, watching on televisions, watching Michael Jordan. I was a
Sure.
big MJ fan. I was a big Lawrence Taylor fan. Those are my two favorite athletes of all time. And I just fell in love with how great they were in their respective sports and how they changed the game in their respective sports. So I've always wanted to be on that type of level. I just wanted to change the game. I wanted to be great. So I think that just never died. And I don't know if that's the dreamer in me. That was, the kid who had an amazing imagination. But it never ever wavered. No matter what, you know, part of my, I'm talking middle school, I'm talking, high school, I'm talking, it just never ever stopped being something that I wanted. And eventually it happened.
I got to ask you one more question too before we get started, because I've heard an urban legend about you at Syracuse from our mutual coach, Coach Hicksey.
Yeah.
Coach Hicks told me that people are doing clap push-ups. We were doing clap push-ups with him. And he said one player in his history of coaching instead of doing a clap push-up, could stand up out of a push himself so high he could stand up. Is that true?
What is the, I don't know about how, I don't know about standing up. It's a pretty high push up, but I
Yeah,
was
that's
up there, man. I could do some, it wasn't just clapping. It was like behind my back, hit my chest, clap,
the
and it
story
was,
goes. The
it was
story is you
fun.
could stand up, and our whole team would try to do it. No one could even get close.
Oh, good luck. Yeah, I didn't get close either.
That's Hicksy.
Yeah, yeah.
Dwight, you grew up in Connecticut and were an all around athlete: baseball, basketball, soccer, and of course, football. What was it about football that ultimately captured your heart? Was there a moment when you knew this was your path?
Well, it's kind of funny. I loved them all. I loved every sport that you mentioned. There was an affinity of love for all of them. Never lost love for them. I was a pretty good athlete in all the sports. Now, it kind of started to die away, when you're trying to play basketball and you're not going to be 6'8", 6'9", you're a power forward. You're not going to get many offers going to college at 6'1", power forward. So that kind of died by the wayside. Baseball, I love the game of baseball, still do. And, I was a center fielder, I was a first baseman. My father was my high school coach, and he loved having me, as you probably know, the dads love to have their kid be the pitcher, so here we go. I'm a center fielder. I have a certain arm angle throwing the ball, and then my dad has me as a pitcher, and I keep throwing, and I ended up throwing my arm out. All right. So now we had like a training camp, or what do you want to call it? Like a scout coming in from the Reds, Cincinnati Reds. And sure enough, I get the ball, I'm a great athlete, catch the ball, and I throw the ball, and the ball is like bouncing to third base, like I have no arm because I completely throw my arm out. So that kind of, went by the wayside as well. And so all my chips started to kind of funnel right into football. And that's where I ended up settling.
Obviously, you were a great player in high school, but when you were in high school, you said you were a dreamer, you had that big imagination. Did you know it could be, I mean, like all the accolades my dad just said, 7 time, all that stuff. Did
Mhm.
you know it could be that? I know you wanted that, but did you think it could really happen?
You know what? I lived in the moment. I'll be honest with you. I never, other than wanting it, which is that deep fire within you, it's not something on the conscious mind to where as though every single day I'm like, I want to be the greatest. The work took care of itself. Put the blinders on and trusted my coaching staff and all the things that led me to the point of wherever I was. And then I added them up at the end, and it ended up being in a great place. But from the young age, obviously you have it was deep within my heart where I wanted to be. That's what helped me push myself to a next level. But it wasn't on the forefront of my brain every single
Sure,
day,
sure.
where I was like, and I want to be a Hall of Famer. It was kind of like I just want to dominate, and that's it.
This is where our stories cross paths. What made you decide to play at Syracuse University, and did you almost go to another school?
Well, for me, it was interesting. I had offers in different schools. I even had Jim Caldwell. Now, if you know Jim Caldwell was a former head coach of mine in two places, Indianapolis Colts and the Detroit Lions. He was also the head coach of Wake Forest when I was coming out. He sat on my couch and said, Dwight, you want to play baseball? Sure. We'll sign you up for the baseball team. And by the way, you play tight end too on offense. You can play both ways, tight end and
Wow.
defensive end. So he almost had me. He almost had me. I was like, man, I don't have to give up baseball and I can play offense and defense. Oh man. But I think obviously I made the right decision.
Yeah.
Went to Syracuse. I think Syracuse mentality was so similar to mentality that I remember in high school. All right. You open the lock, you go in the locker room, and everybody's just revved up, ready to go, blue collar, just ready to punch somebody in the face. That's what I loved. I went to Boston College as one of my visits, and it was like I felt like I was in a library, and I was sitting there like, man, these guys are getting ready to play a game right now. It was just like, oh God, get me out of here. So, so the hatred for Boston College started early. But I think with Syracuse, like I said, the mentality was what I remember from high school. It was not too far away from home if I ever needed to get back, but it was far enough where I felt like I was away. It was great.
Well, I'm sure glad that you joined the Orange. At Syracuse, you had that remarkable streak, 17 straight games with a sack. What do you remember most about that run? Did you feel unstoppable at the time, or were you still finding your identity as a player?
Well, in college, you don't really know what you don't know. So for me, I was out there just enjoying the moment, playing hard. I didn't think I could be stopped in college. That was just my mentality, and I was just like, you know what? I don't care who you have block me. It doesn't matter if it's one guy or two guys. I'm getting there. And so that mentality never ever wavered throughout that period of time where I was having a sack streak, and it wasn't like I was sitting there counting either. It was just kind of like, I mean, I'm just going out there doing what I do. I'm gonna go out there, play hard, try to make as many plays for our team to win. Period.
At some point, I know you weren't counting it, but at some point, 17 in a row, someone had to come to you and say, Dwight, you got 10 games in a row. No?
I promise you, never ever did anybody
Really?
sit there and say, you have. If they probably would have told me, I probably would have not gotten the sack that game.
Yeah.
It is. It's like that pitcher. You can't tell the pitcher he's
Yeah.
throwing a no hitter. It's one of those things where my blinders were on. I was
Yeah.
trying to make plays for my team. Period. That's it.
That was some run. Dwight, do you have a favorite memory strapping on the pads for the Orange?
I have two memories that one was a win and one was a loss. Um, the win was versus Virginia Tech, and it was like one of those games where it was my first year, and Donovan McNabb was the quarterback. And we had this play where the tight end kind of gets blocks and kind of gets lost in the line of scrimmage, and then kind of peels back to the other side where no one could find him. And I remember Donovan rolling out to the right and throwing a pass all the way back across the field to him to score a touchdown, to win the game, to beat Virginia Tech. And this was the first time I've ever experienced like fans rushing the field. And it might be the last time I've ever, actually, it's the last time. It was the first and the last time I think I experienced fans rushing the field. And I just remember running to the sideline, running to jump on my guys, and I jumped on them, and here comes 50,000 fans rushing the field. When I tell you I was on the bottom of that pile, it was the hard, I could not breathe. It was the hardest breathing I have ever done. Forget the 110 sprints and the running the 40-yard dashes. It was being on the bottom of the pile when the fans rushed the field. That was one of my favorite memories that I'll never forget. And then another one I'll never forget, unfortunately, that we didn't win the game. I had four and a half, basically five sacks versus Michael Vick. And we should have won that game. We ended up losing that game. But I just remember when we talk about the unstoppable feeling and feeling unstoppable, that game, literally, that offensive tackle may still be in his stance today. Because I was flying. I was like, he had no chance. I was so I was so revved up for that moment, man. It was great.
Were you revved up partially because it's Vic? I mean, he was
Yeah, of
unstoppable.
course.
Everybody, yeah.
Yeah, of course. He was God in that point in college. And we don't like VTech. And they're coming here and they were ranked, we weren't. And it was kind of one of those things where, yeah, we got to figure out when to win this game. And I was just, man, when I tell you I was on fire, I had jets
Yeah.
coming out of my behind that day. I was flying.
That's
Unfortunately,
also
we lost the game.
that's like the
Unfortunately, we
perfect
lost.
matchup for you too, right? A quarterback that tries to go out of the pocket because you could just chase him down.
I couldn't even chase him down if I wanted
That's
to and
true,
dreamed
Vic. Yeah,
about
that's
it.
true.
I got him
Yeah.
before he started. I got him before he got going.
Yeah, 4.5 on anybody is a lot, but 4.5 on Vic sounds like a video game.
Yeah, it felt like a video game.
There aren't many people on earth who could run down Vic. Dwight coming into the NFL, there were people who questioned whether you were big enough to play defensive end. How did you channel that doubt into motivation?
Well, as you know, Tim, you got to use whatever you got. And one of the things that I had was, hey, that little chip on your shoulder. And people didn't think that I didn't come from a huge, Texas. I came from Connecticut. Oh, there's no players in Connecticut. They don't have no guys. Da da da, and I proved him wrong there. And then you got guys like Mel Kiper or whoever, saying, "Oh, he's a tweener. He's not going." I don't know why the Colts drafted him so early. They could have got him in the second or third round. I don't know if he plays the run. All this other stuff. So all of those things I use as fuel, all right, to ignite me whenever you have those moments where you're training, you're working hard. Just remember that guy who said you weren't good enough or you weren't tall enough, or you weren't big enough. And I understand, look, there wasn't many people like me prior to me. So I get it. You didn't have most defensive ends were 6'4", 6'5", 270 pounds or whatever it was. I wasn't. All right. So I was gonna have to find a way to redefine the position, and I did. Now you see guys my height, lighter than me, get drafted all the time. All right. And, it's just something that you use as fuel. And that's what I've always done in my career.
When you showed up in the league, again, obviously you had an amazing career in college. Again, same question about going to high school to college. Did you know you could do like were you nervous at all about that NFL that jump to the league, or did you have a kind of like an NFL moment where you said like, okay, I can do this?
I never doubted myself, man. That I wouldn't let doubt enter my brain, my system. I would not allow it. I was going to go out. I was going to play as hard as I possibly could. And that's it. And let the chips, fall where they may. And the good thing for me is I was always quick and fast. So they always talk about the speed of the game is a lot faster. It is a lot faster, but I was still fast.
Yeah.
So for me, I just did what I had to do personally. And I knew in my heart that if I did that, it's going to be hard for that guy to stop me.
And when you got drafted, what was that moment like?
Yeah, it was one of the best moments. That goes up into the top moments of your lifetime. You went from, I go from being a huge Giant fan and not giving a damn about the Giants in a split freaking second. Like I was the guy who cried when Lawrence Taylor retired. I was the guy who rushed home early from church if I could, just to get to that 1 o'clock tea time. I mean tea time, a 1 o'clock kickoff, at Giant Stadium on in front of the TV. And it's amazing. As soon as you get drafted, you could care less. And I became all horseshoe and the Colts and all about them. It completely changed my life, and it was one of those moments where kind of time kind of stood still for a second,
Yeah,
and you sat there and said, "Man, I'm really in the NFL."
that's amazing. Did you know that the
Yeah,
Colts were going to pick you? You think someone ahead of you was going to?
no clue, man. They didn't give
Yeah,
any indication. They all said this could be the first pick. Like I was projected anywhere from like 11th to like 30th into the second round, but this was like the first team. But I had no clue. I don't even remember talking to him.
yeah.
Yeah,
Your spin move is the stuff of legend. I hear you credit basketball moves as part of its origin. Can you walk us through how you developed it and how much time you spent perfecting that craft?
yeah. I mean, I was back in the '90s, and one mixtapes were huge back then. For those who are watching that don't understand what that is, it was like guys on the basketball court doing incredible moves with the basketball, trying to make that defender look absolutely silly and ridiculous. So for me, I wanted to find a way to bring that energy, that type of thing to the football field. I wanted the offensive tackle, I wanted whoever would block me to find a way to make them look absolutely silly and ridiculous. And for me, it was finding a way to get creative on the field, and it was the spin move that revealed itself. And my coach in high school, he didn't care. He'd let me do whatever I wanted to do. Sometimes, you have to kind of have coaches that kind of help pave the way for you as well. Let you just be creative and go out and be you. And I had a great coach where he said, Dwight, I don't care, man. Do whatever you want. Just make the play. So hey, here we go. I'm on the practice field. I'm with my buddy and we're out there trying to, working moves. And I said, you know what? What if I spin it? What would happen? And here we go. And this is back in the day where spinning was like taboo. You couldn't
Yeah.
spin because you lose sight of the ball. So like never spin, never turn your back to the ball. Well, look, to me, I found a way to do it so quickly, like it was almost like I never turned my back to the ball, and I just kept doing it, and I did it often and it became a natural instinct for me. It became something natural. It wasn't robotic. I would be walking down the aisle in the grocery store and spin off the old lady who's coming down trying to get in my way, spin on her. That was my mentality. That was the things that I thought about. And it was part of me.
When you first did it in high school, was it the coach that was letting you be creative? Did he love it, or
I made the play, thank
as
God.
long as you made the
Now, if I would
play?
have, if I'd have fell on my face,
Yeah.
it would have been something else.
If you make the play, you can get away with a lot. Hey, when you look back at your prime years with the Colts, lining up alongside guys like Robert Mathis playing for Tony Dungy, what stands out about the culture of that locker room?
Well, I think, it started with Jim Irsay and how Jim Irsay kind of created this environment. And the environment was a team atmosphere, family atmosphere. He kind of let Bill Polian and Tony Dungy kind of do their thing and instill what they believed. And what they believed was kind of creating a place where you have high character guys and coming together as one, as like a family. And that's kind of those years, you kind of never, you don't know what you had until it's gone type of feeling. That's what it was. It was one of those unique situations where everything kind of gelled together offensively and defensively. We were a very close knit family type of group, and it showed on Sunday. We played hard, we played for each other, and we had a good time doing it.
You played in 3 Super Bowls, and you've won 1. When you think about the biggest moments of your career, good or bad, what memories flood back first?
Well, I think which is amazing for me is obviously when you win a Super Bowl, that is the ultimate achievement for an athlete and just a football athlete. I don't care any sport. I don't care. Super Bowl is it. Um, and the reason being is because it takes so much things to happen right for you to get there, and it's such a team sport. The game of football. It's not like other sports where it's like you're a basketball player and take nothing away from the finals, all right, and what happens there in NBA finals. But you could play offense and you could play defense. You could, so you're playing both sides. When you're a football player, you're only on the field one third of the time. All right. So you have to really rely on everybody. You have to rely on your offense, your special teams. The ball has to bounce the right way. There's a lot of variables and it's only one game. You don't have like 7 game series or something like that in different sports. This is it, man. And when you achieve that, it's just like, you almost feel like it doesn't make any sense. You're like, wait, what just happened? I won a Super Bowl. Like, this is something that you dream about. And I will tell you, the most special feeling about that is it comes back every single year, that feeling. Because when you sit there and you watch any sport and you see a team win the ultimate prize, the memories and the emotions kind of start flooding back to you of how you felt in the moment when you won the Super Bowl. And that type of thing will never leave me. I will always remember that feeling, how it felt to be on top. So, and it always brings a smile to my face every single time I see any type of team win the big one. So I would say that's probably the biggest moment. We try to forget about the ones I lost. I'm not going to go into that. That is the worst feeling in the world.
That year that you guys won the Super Bowl, I mean, like you said, the offense was on fire, the defense was on fire. Was that kind of a similar situation where did the whole team have that kind of confidence that you knew you never know if you can win the Super Bowl, but you guys knew you were one of the best teams?
Well, yeah, you have to have the confidence going in, and I don't care what team it is. The Chicago Bears that we beat, they had the confidence, I'm sure, that they were going to win the Super Bowl. You have to because you got there and you feel like you're going to win. That's just the only way it can happen. And like I said, we were humming and things bounced the right way, and we felt like we couldn't be stopped. I've been on the other side of that too, twice. We felt the same exact way on every team. We felt like we were going to win it, and we didn't care who we were going to play. Now, I only won one of those, all right, but that was no different. The feeling was no different. It just happened that it happened the first time.
So the first one, obviously you guys end up winning, but opening kickoff, Devin Hester takes
Yeah.
it to the house. Did you have any oh shit moment or no?
Nah, it was for me. It was like, all right, we tried. Don't kick him the ball again, and that's how that's how you neutralize a guy who's legendary in the Hall of Fame
Yeah.
for returning kicks. It was one of those things where when we went to the game, we felt like this team can't stop us offensively, and this team can't handle us defensively. Defensively, we can shut down what they have. We felt very strong against what they had to do in their game plan, and we executed. Man, the defense was humming at the right time. So there was no thought in our brains at any point in that game, at least for me, that we were going to lose that game. And I don't care, Devin. I love him to death, but it didn't matter. We weren't going to kick him the ball again.
You've dealt with your share of injuries and setbacks. What have those challenges taught you about resilience and perspective?
Yeah, I think, I've been hurt many times. I've been injured many times. And I think that just comes with the territory of playing as long as I did. I played 16 years in the NFL. I've had like 8 surgeries. All right. And now it's something where you really have to keep grinding. It's just one of those things where, unfortunately, bad things happen. It is what it is. It's always how you bounce back from adversity that always brings you to the next level. And for my career, I've had Liz Franks and I've had quad tendon tears and I've had labrum tears in the shoulder and all type. And every single time it's happened, the first two happened during the season, where my season was over. It happened where, okay, all right, let me lace up my boots and go back out there. No, Dwight, no, you're done for 3 to 4. I'm like, oh, 3 to 4 weeks? Okay, no problem. I'm gonna get back. No, 3 to 4 months. You can't. Your quad is falling off your leg. You're gonna. It was one of those moments where I'm like, wait a minute, excuse me, and it is a terrible feeling, especially for me because I was a guy that would, if you cut my leg off, I'm gonna go out there and hop and I'll hop and I'll hop to try to figure out a way to help this team win and make a play. That's just how my mentality was. But it brings you to a point of just being humble and thinking and taking a step back for a minute and just saying, okay, this is the new thing I have to deal with, and let's get focused and let's get it done. And that's how it's been in my entire career. put the blinders on and focus on what's important in the moment. And what was important in those moments was focusing on my rehab, focusing on a way to get back and get back stronger than I ever did. I wasn't going to let an injury define me.
I know faith has been part of your journey. How has your faith influenced the way you approach your career and your life after football?
I think for me, when you have faith, you don't get scared. You don't feel like, hey, I don't know if this is going to work out. I just go out and know that God has a plan. And whatever that plan is, it is what it is. I can't do anything about it anyway. I can only do as hard as I can. I can work as hard as I possibly can and just do the things that I know I can do personally. And the chips are going to fall where they fall. But for me, when you have faith, it's a comforting thing because you just know that somebody got your back. And regardless of how it may look and how bleak it looks, there's going to be some type of silver lining in everything that happens.
That's how I felt. There's a big perspective shift. Dwight retirement can be a huge adjustment, especially after such a long career. What was the hardest part for you about stepping away from the game?
I think it was, look, man, I loved the game. I absolutely loved it. It was part of me. It was part of my DNA. And, I remember crying, literally crying my last game, realizing this is it. I will no longer put on another helmet and never no longer lace these shoes up and go out and compete. I will miss the game forever. I will miss Sundays forever. Now, Monday through Saturday, you can have. You can have you can have the practices. You can have all the 2 days. You got that. But the Sunday game, um, it's nothing like it in the world. It's equivalent to if people watch movies. It's equivalent to Maximus in the Gladiator, and he comes out, and you have 80,000 screaming Romans screaming your name. That adrenaline that you get, there's no drug that can replicate that. That adrenaline that you feel and that feeling that you feel is unchallenged, and it can only be replicated in the moment. And that's the moments that I will miss the most because it can't be replicated.
It's funny. We'll go to games like Falcons games, and my dad still in the wheelchair. He'll be like, "I still get goosebumps and like feel
Oh
adrenaline
yeah,
when they come out of the tunnel."
there's nothing like it, and you can't. And not many people have experienced that. It's something else, man. When you run out of the tunnel, you get goosebumps when you think about it. I still get goosebumps when I think about it. That feeling when you're running out of time, you feel like you're unstoppable, you're invincible, and everyone's screaming, and you just get more charged up. It's a sick feeling.
I tried to describe that feeling to someone and said that it feels like a bolt of lightning going through your body. Like you said, there's nothing quite like it. Anyway, you've been open about mentoring younger players. What advice do you find yourself giving most often to today's pass rushers?
I think for me, when I talk to these guys, look, there's multiple levels to this thing, and I try to break it down the best way I can. And for me, it's about inside here, your heart, and you can see it on film. You gotta be able to have a relentless pursuit of the ball, pursuit of what you're trying to do, something that gives you that extra step, that extra set of juice. Because rushing the passer, as you know, Tim, is the hardest thing you can do on the field. You fail 99% of the time. It's 35 passes, and if you just get one, you feel like you're on top of the Mount Rushmore, and you had the best game in the world, and the guy who gave up the sack, he just gave up one. He could have kicked your behind the entire game, and he's going to drag his head, and he's going to be sulking the entire rest of that afternoon and that night because he gave up one. That tells you how hard it is to get a quarterback sack. So you better have that fire. You have to have that energy. That's one. And then two, you got to have a plan. You got to know what you're going to do. You can't just get off the ball and just run wildly. You got to know what you're trying to do. And that's kind of what those are the first two things I kind of tell these guys is you got to have. Get off the ball as fast as you possibly can. You got to have a desire, a want to get there, and you have to have a plan.
Dwight, we're obviously Falcons fans, like you said. Once you get drafted, it changes everything, right? So
Yes, sir.
being Falcons fans, obviously you were on the team, and that was an awesome year. But as a mentor, Vic Beasley, when you were there,
Yep.
had 15 and a half sacks, led
Yeah.
the NFL, and
Yep.
then just disappeared. What do you think that was?
I hate to say it, but um, look, I was there, and sometimes you need some veteran leadership, right? And I was the gel that helped keep the thing together. Now, maybe the numbers weren't how they used to be for me, but Dan Quinn brought me in for a reason, and that reason was to be a leader and to help these young guys come along. And Vic was one of those guys who had amazing ability. Um, Unfortunately, our time wasn't long enough. And I wish I had more time with him because I could help him out. I could have helped him out a lot more and helped him get into another, I don't know, level of a baller out there, and basically increase his IQ, his football IQ, to where as though now you really don't need me. All right. But 1 year is tough to do in 1 year. And I was able to, hey Vic, this play, I want you to run high. Like this literally before the snap. Run high. I'm gonna go inside, or I'm gonna go high, you do this, and helping him along. And I think that helped. Obviously, you've seen him with 15 sacks. Now, I'm not the only reason why he got 15 sacks. I think he was, obviously, he was a guy that had a lot of ability. But I think that if I was there longer, I honestly believe that you would have seen more of that from Vic.
Yeah, yeah. It was really. I mean, it was bizarre. And did you like that role where, you were like, I mean, everyone who's watching this knows or listening to this knows, like you were the guy. It's not like you were like, oh, you were a good pass rusher. You were like the guy for, I don't know, a decade in
Yeah,
the NFL. And the
yeah.
tail end of your career where you were showing up as you were still a pass rushing specialist in any situation, but where you were brought in, the Falcons, like they bring you in, DQ brings you in and says, hey, we want to help get our young guy going. Did you like that role as much as the other role, or was it different?
Well, it's kind of funny, and this happens to everybody, and I can laugh about it now and talk about it, but the older you get, the more they want to protect you. If you had a great career, they want to protect you. So what does that mean? What that means is they want to bring your reps down, so you don't have as many reps, which means your numbers are going to go down
Hmm.
because you don't have the opportunities to make the plays. And then you get stuck in this whole world of just a pass rusher because all you can do is 15 reps. And I'm like, man, you know what? I got a lot more to give. And I could play first and second down and third down. It's
Hmm.
not even close, but they decided to do that. And these teams, I got kind of rolled up in this whole just a pass rusher, just a passing situation. So what I ended up doing was retiring, not because I didn't think I could play anymore. It was because I got tired of being in this role of 15 plays a game, 14 plays a game, 10 plays a game, and you expect me to hit a home run, which basically means get a sack in 10 attempts. When everybody knows that you're out there and you're going to be targeted, regardless if you're in year 15 or 16, it wasn't great anymore. It
Yeah.
wasn't as fun as it used to be. So that's kind of what happened towards the tail end of my career. So I would definitely loved more the everyday first, second down, third down process. Not Dwight, go get him. It's a pass. It's third down. Well, they know it's a pass too. That means they're going to load up the protection. They're going to slide the protection. They're going to do this.
Yeah.
They're going to do that. I used to get so many sacks on first down and second down off play action than most, just because I could read people's stances and I knew what they were going to do prior to. When it was a lot easier to get a sack on first, second down, and third down.
It's funny you say that because obviously this is our first time. You're my first time speaking. I would have guessed if before talking to you that at the you like did your time. I just want to do pass rushing now. That's what I would
Oh
have guessed.
no.
But yeah,
Never.
I
I
never
never
thought
just
about the other
wanted to.
side.
I never, ever, ever wanted to just do that. You got to get in the rhythm of the game. You got to get in. You got to get bumped. You got to get hit. You got to feel it. You got to keep probing. You got to, feel out your guy. And, by the second or third quarter, then you got to figure it out. When you're just coming in on third down, they might have dialed up a blitz where you're dropping in coverage or you dialed up some exotic something. It's a different feel. It's like you're a pinch hitter, literally a pinch hitter, coming off in baseball, and you're asked to go get a base hit or go get a home run. Uh, It might happen, but the chance of it happening is highly unlikely.
Yeah, yeah. I never thought about that other side of the.
Yeah.
Now you're back at our old alma mater joining the Syracuse football staff. When you joined, you said, "The time is now." The team is coming off a huge season under Coach Fran Brown. What is the biggest impact you hope to have?
Well, I think that, I'll give those guys things that they can get ready for, experience, things that I've seen that they can't get anywhere else. I've been through it. I was sitting in those classrooms. I was a player on that field and laced my shoes up. I can help these guys understand what it takes to get to the next level, what it takes to get to that next level once you get to the next level. Um, and I can build that foundational things at an early age. So I told, Fran and the coaching staff and the AD, I said, look, man, use me as a resource. Use me. I have a lot of things that stuck in here that I done forgot. Help bring this thing out, and then I'll be able to help you guys. Hopefully, just take another step forward. I'm not saying I'm out there, like a miracle worker, but I'm out there trying to get things moving in a better position than they were, and I'll be able to do that on the field. Helping those guys from a scheme standpoint, talking to the guys from a mentality and technique standpoint. And if they need me to rub some elbows with some people who want to cut some checks for NIL, I'm here too.
Dwight, you're in a really unique position where you're working with the football team and obviously Coach Fran Brown's the CEO of the football team, but you really don't need to be there. I mean, you're choosing to be there. So what do you think about what do you think about Coach Brown when you met him, or were you surprised by the success they had last year?
Well, you know what? Syracuse has been bad for a while. And it's just the truth is, truth hurts, but it's the truth. We weren't playing up to our capabilities, and it was hard to, rep the S like I wanted to rep the S, especially when I was playing, because, they had something called a man law bet, right? So you're in the locker room and you got, whoever playing, Miami playing Syracuse. And sure enough, all the Hurricane guys would come find you, Syracuse guy, and say, "Hey, you're locked in our bet this week, and you can't say no." So it's just like I get to hiding, and when I know when Syracuse is going to be playing somebody good. So right now, I believe that these guys are playing the way that I remember that they should play. It reminds me a lot of the years past, my years and Tim, your years, and the years that they were really playing well. There's a grit to them, and I think Fran brings that. So I felt like this is an opportunity to help these guys get to another level and kind of just hopefully they can stay where they were. It's going to be a tough year now. They have a lot of tough games these first four games.
Yeah.
They have to figure out a way to get out of it or on top. But if they do, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
You have had front row seats to some of the greatest minds in football, like Peyton Manning, Coach Tony Dungy, etc. What is a piece of advice or lesson from those guys that really stuck with you and you're trying to bring in your role at Syracuse?
I think the big thing is, it's preparation. You know, preparation breeds success. If you prepare accordingly, the right way, going into, then you're going to have more success during the game. You can't just show up on Saturday or Saturday for college and Sunday for the NFLs and think you're going to just be great. You have to know your opponent. You got to know what you're trying to do. You have to execute the game plan. That happens during the week. You have to watch film. You got to know your opponent, what he likes to do. These are all things that are very important for the maximum amount of success that you want to have. And that comes through preparation.
Would you ever consider coaching in the NFL, or is college your dream?
I don't know, man. It's just I love the game of football, and I do love helping the youth and helping people learn. When you decide to be a coach in the NFL, it's a huge commitment. I remember coaches sleeping in their office, just trying to get all the game plan together just for those guys to be ready on a Tuesday or Wednesday. That's a big sacrifice. Maybe if I was single, whatever, but I got two little girls and I got a family that I love to death. So I don't know if wifey and the girls are gonna really love daddy sleeping in an office trying to get ready for a football game. But who knows? Maybe when they get older, if hopefully the fire is still there, and maybe I do something like that. But right now, I'm focused on the family and being around with my girls.
That's the most important locker room. Hey, you've spoken about your family and your Jamaican heritage. How has that background shaped who you are on and off the field?
Well, the foundation is important. You have to have a solid foundation in life. And I think I had a really solid foundation, and if you have sturdy foundation, when you fall, you can get back up. And, that's what happened in my entire life. And that's due to my parents raising me the right way, correct way. And, I have that Jamaican heritage. So they're a little bit more strict there than most, which is okay. It got me to where I am today. And I just want to make sure that I do the same thing for my girls. It's just make sure that foundation is right, man, so that they can take on anything.
What does success look like to you today, now that you're a father, a mentor, and no longer defined by sacks and stat sheets?
And that's a great question. I think the success is a longevity type of thing. Uh, when you're playing a game, at the end of the clock, you look up and say you won or you lost, or how many sacks that you got at the end of the game. Well, I'm in the game of life right now, right? So that clock doesn't go off. I guess it kind of does go off in a way when I have to wake up and change a diaper. But other than that, the clock doesn't go off where you can look up and add it up. You just know you have to kind of keep stacking good days on top of good days on top of good days. Kind of using that whole tunnel vision that I kind of talked about. And when you look up at the end, hopefully you stacked enough good days and you can see the results of all the things that you've done with your kids. Now I'm young, so I'm young in the game. I'm not like you. You're an old vet, man. So I see the product right here in Troy that you see that you did with an amazing dad. I'm trying to get to where you are, so I probably need some tips from you.
Yeah, you have to when you come up, our kids are similar ages. When you come up for a game, you gotta bring your crew.
Yeah, yeah. Be careful what you ask for.
Trust me,
my
my
li-
kids
my
are
little my
lunatics.
2-year-old's like a man. She is something else. You know how those twos are. They're like a little terrorist, man. She'll tear some stuff up.
My So my parents, I'm my dad's neighbor. I've got 4 kids. My
Yeah.
brother's 2 houses down. He's got 3 kids. My
Oh
sister's
my
across the
goodness.
street. She's got 3 kids.
Oh
So
my goodness.
there's
You guys got
10
a tribe.
10 grandkids, 6 and under within walking distance.
Oh my
So,
God, you guys must be, oh my
no, it's
goodness. I can only
insane.
imagine. It's the greatest thing and the worst thing probably all mixed up in the great in one little ball. It's like, oh, everyone's close and we can get hang out. Then you got like 14 kids running around the house destroying stuff. You're like, oh my God, could you stop?
Well, that's the good news about if you bring your 2-year-old is they already broke all of our kids already broke everything that you could break at my parents' house.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Bring him to granddad's house. Let him tear
That's
that out.
right. Pop. That's what Pop's house. They take
Right.
Dwight, they take his, and it's funny because I used to do this when my dad was young, or when I was younger. I used to take my dad's like all-American trophies and sack record
Yeah.
trophy, and I had them like action figures, just slamming them into each other. I must have broke, not exaggerating, Dwight, I must have broke 30 trophies.
Oh my goodness. You
Yeah.
gotta put those things up high, Tim, where you can't get it. You probably climbing up on top of furniture to get
Oh,
it.
it's mayhem. It's like a zoo over there now. You'll see when you come
Yeah,
up for
yeah,
real. You should bring your kids. You'll love it.
All right, well, I'm gonna do that.
Well, now you have to bring them. This is also a perfect lead into my last question. At the end of each podcast, I invite all our guests to brag about their family. And I know you have 2 beautiful daughters, so please brag away.
Well, bragging is easy, man. I got two beautiful girls, Olivia and Alana. And you know, being a girl dad, I would never have thought, it would have been this way. They have completely softened me all the way up. I'm like a freaking pillow right now. I can't believe how soft I am. It's the greatest thing in the world, though. When, for me, Tim, I play a lot of golf, right? And that's the only way, it's the only place I have where I can like channel some of this competitive juices that I still got going. And sometimes those days are really bad on the golf course where I feel like I lost the Super Bowl when I only lost, I just lost a round of golf, or but for me, I take it really seriously, right? I'll come home. I mean, I'm pissed off the entire way home. I'm trying not to speed. I'm trying not to have a temper tantrum, and I'm literally just like, just breathe, Dwight. When I walk through the door and you see your girls, they don't give a damn about none of that. They just see their dad and they want to run up and give you a big hug and smile, and all of that anxiety, all those issues, all that stress, all the times I hit the ball out of bounds, all that stuff doesn't even matter anymore. It's just like I get loved up by these two beautiful girls, and hopefully that's what it's going to be for my entire life. They're gonna take care of dad in their own special way, and I'm really blessed to feel those moments now.
Dwight, I have a couple of just total football nerd questions I got to ask you because I got you.
Okay, good. Yeah. What's up?
Who was the hardest quarterback to sack? You played in obviously a different era,
Ooh,
and you played against some
ooh.
some killers.
Well, it just depends. It depends on what you mean. So Michael Vick,
Yeah.
in understand, in college when I sacked him, he didn't see me coming. In the pros, he saw me coming. So, and once he gets going, there is no catching him. He would be one of those toughest guys to sack. And another type of way, a tough guy to sack would be guys like, like Bledsoe, which sounds funny. Like, how could Bledsoe be hard to, because Bledsoe was like a tree stump. And when you hit him, it almost like he hit back. And you really had to put a lot into that hit. And I had to he was a big man, and I had to try to find a way to get him down. That was another guy, and then kind of a mix between both of them would be a Steve McNair. Steve
Yeah.
McNair was elusive. He'll make you miss, and he was just country strong. where you could just try to hit him as hard as you can, and you're like bouncing off of him, and you're like slipping off the sack, and you don't even know how you did it because he was just had I don't know if it was legs or what it was. He was just a hard guy to bring down. Those are really my top three as far as when you get there. Now, and you're talking about a guy that, if you know, that's hard to sack in general, it's Tom Brady sometimes. And the reason being is because he was so scared about getting hit. He got rid of, he would get rid of the ball. You'll have your best pass rush move, man. It'd be the best thing. The offensive tackle didn't even touch you, and the ball is gone. He's throwing the ball within, 2 seconds. You have a clock in your head as a pass rusher. You got 3 seconds basically to get there. You'll dial up your best stuff, and that ball is gone 30 times a game. It's gone. And that one time he holds on to the ball, you gotta get there.
Yeah. How about in practice on your, you played obviously your guys' defense, you and Mathis, you guys had an amazing defense. Bob Sanders, you had, and all on the offensive side, you had Peyton, Jeff Saturday, all those guys, Reggie Wayne.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
guys would go one-on-ones in practice, I know it doesn't happen often in the NFL, but did you guys, you guys must have had some great battles, right?
I mean, we had that was kind of what got us going. We're playing against the greats on our team. Those guys are all Hall of Famers or soon to be. Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, we had obviously Peyton Manning, Edgerrin James, Jeff
Yeah.
Saturday. I mean, and it was kind of like ones would just bring out the best with the ones, sharpen your sword and you just go keep going. And that's how it is. Iron sharpens iron. And that's how it was. So we were really, lucky to have that type of offense to go against because it didn't matter who we played against in the regular season. They wouldn't compare to, how good our offense was.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking too, is like, there's
Yeah.
no one better to practice against than your own
Nope.
team.
Yep.
In your career, you played a lot of unbelievable players. I won't go with a teammate because I don't want to have an undue controversy. Who's somebody that what you never played with that you just saw and you just like, man, that guy's a freak.
I mean, look, there's too many guys. I mean, I love Warren Sapp. I never had a D tackle like Warren Sapp or, even Aaron Donald, those guys from the interior that just kind of eat up that space. I
Yeah.
probably would have had, 50 sacks in a year if I had a D tackle in my mind. Like I would have took because the quarterback kept stepping up. But if you got Warren Sapp or John Randall inside, there ain't no stepping up. You got to
Yeah.
come to me or you got to come to them. So I think that was just a real beast inside. That's what I wanted.
Last NFL nerding out moment. Super Bowl is obviously the highlight of anyone's career, I'd
Yep.
imagine. But for your individual success, not the Super Bowl, what was the best game you played? It might not have been the best statistically, but what's a game you played in the NFL where you just, when you think about it, just like everything went right, kind of a thing?
I think there was for me. It's whenever the team won, and I think for me, if I had to say one, it was the Dolphins game in 2003. I had like 3 sacks or 4 sacks that game, or three and a half, 4 sacks. Um, but it was one of those games where the team needed a play. And I delivered, man. I went out and it was like third, and I don't even know what down it was. They were driving and they were like in field goal range. And and so they were driving. They didn't even need to like, score a touchdown or whatever. And I ended up sacking the quarterback, causing a fumble, and for our team recovering the ball to win the game. Those are the moments for me is where I consider it to be my best game because not only did I statistically have a great game, but the result of the game was because I had that type of game. We won the game on the last
Yeah.
play of the game, like like a basketball player. the clock is running down and it's 5, 4, 3, 2, and then I got to shoot a 3-pointer from half court, and I made it. That's the feeling of that game and other games like
This is the real last one, and then we can move on.
that.
I was thinking about this, and I didn't have any of this planned out. This is just the stuff that over the years. I mean, obviously, we watched you. We
Yeah,
were big fans and all that. At your Hall of Fame ceremony, Michael Jordan was there. How does that
yeah,
happen?
it's kind of crazy. So his best friend lived in Indianapolis at the time, and I met Michael through the game of golf, and he invited me to his invitation on the Bahamas in like 2003 or 2004. And that's where I met his best friend that lived in Indianapolis. Obviously, he was a fan of mine's. He was a Colt fan. So I got in good with him, and Michael invited me to the tournament like a lot of the other athletes. So, through the years, it just became in the off season, hey man, call the young boy, call the young kid, tell him to come on, and so I would tag along to all these trips that Michael was going on, and we ended up becoming close. And, I've known him 20 years now, and he's been like a big brother to me, and it's been great.
I've heard hilarious stories about him trash talking people in golf. Did he ever trash talk you?
Oh yeah, you're not going to get a, you're not you're never going to get away from that. He's going to find a way to get into your head some way somehow. Thank God he's more my partner than not.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty competitive as well, so we can be talking trash back and forth. But I've seen him, have that same look, that same, grill looking at you, when it comes down to that big moment, he has to make a play. In the basketball court, he actually brings it to the golf course.
Now, on to our final word segment where we ask our guests a few rapid fire questions. What was the happiest moment in your life?
My kids were born, my first child.
What is the biggest adversity you've faced?
One of them with the boy injuries that I've had. I've had a couple of career-ending injuries, but I think the biggest one was in Syracuse University. I ruptured my spleen after the game versus Michael Vick. After the 4.5 sacks, I hit one of the sacks that I got hit. I hit him. His helmet hit me in the side. The next day, my blood work was off. It was a ruptured spleen.
Wow.
It took me out the entire year.
What are you most excited about?
I think just seeing my kids grow and see what they're going to turn into, man, and being part of that journey, you know.
What advice would you give your high school self if you could go back?
Ooh, I would just say, man, there's too much I can give myself about. I would say this. I would say this, man. Just keep grinding, keep working. It's all going to work out in the end. Just keep your head down and just keep working hard, and add them up in the end. And that's what I would tell myself, because there's points and moments where you feel down on yourself and you feel like it's not gonna work out.
Next one. Do you have any book recommendations for us or for the listeners? My dad's a big reader.
Ooh, man, that's a good one. I used to get lost in the Dan Brown series of books. Dan Brown, he had a book called Da Vinci Code, and then he had one after that. And it took me to a whole new place, man. And there's nothing better than reading a book, because your imagination can go where it wants to go and create the scenery and all that. So I would say any of those Dan Brown books, if you hadn't read them, you should read them. You get lost in it. I don't have the time anymore like I used to, but it was great when I was doing it.
I know my dad read, I know for a fact my dad read those.
Oh,
Dad, right? You read those? Yeah, he did. The
yeah.
eyebrows. Uh,
The name of our podcast is Nothing Left Unsaid. Do you have anything you want to say?
I mean, nothing other than, Tim, you paved the way for guys like me. You were a vet, and you were a baller, And if it wasn't for you doing what you do at Syracuse, paving the way for us guys that are trying to come behind you, trying to be like you, I wouldn't be here today. So I thank you and I appreciate you for being the guy that you were and the guy that you are.
Dwight, before we wrap up here, I know I got it one. I said last question like 6 times, but this is the real last question. At the end of
Okay.
every podcast, you kind of got to know us and kind of see the vibe of the podcast and all that. Who is a guest? Who are a couple of people that you know personally that you think we should try to get on as a future guest?
Oh man, there's just too much good. Godly. That's a tough question. I love, you know what, I'm gonna keep it in the family. Let's just talk about pass rushers because we're all family. If you are a guy who hits the quarterback, you're part of the family. And I think you need to have a John Randall, or Bruce Smith, or one of those guys that just terrorize quarterbacks, have them running for their life. And I think John would probably be an interesting one.
Yeah, those are the two good ones.
Dwight, thank you for joining us today and for sharing not just your football journey, but the mindset, discipline, and values that carried you through it all. I always really respected you as a player, professional, and Syracuse football alumni. So it was nice to get to know you. Next time you're in town, let's get together. God bless you and your family.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. All right, you guys take care.
Even with the 2-year-old, let's get together. Thanks so much,
Yes,
Dwight. It was
sir.
awesome.
No problem.